I'm with Gordon Robertson from CBN News. Now, Gordon, what is CBN News?
CBN News is based out of Virginia Beach, but we have offices in Washington, D.C., New York, and Jerusalem, and some bureaus scattered around the world. The idea is to tell news of interest to Christians.
When were you started and why were you started?
We were started in the late 1970s, and it was a dream that my father had, that there needed to be a Christian alternative to the major news organizations, that they didn't have the same interest in the same stories. Currently, in the U.S., you're not going to find too many stories about Christian persecution that's happening in the Middle East, happening in other countries. And so how do we fill that gap? How do we let Christians know stories of interest to them?
And you have a heart for Israel as well.
Absolutely, we have a heart for Israel. And again, that's a long-standing thing. For me personally, it goes back to my first trip to Israel in 1969. Wow. And I saw men dancing with Torah scrolls at the Kotel at the Western Wall, and it absolutely was a profound moment for me and really hard to describe. I was just 11 years old, and it left a lasting impact. And I've come to Israel so many times, I've lost track of how many times I've been to Israel.
Is there still something to learn even though you come back again and again and again?
I was saying to somebody the other day I hadn't been to the Rockefeller Museum in a long time. Yeah. I think I went back in the 1970s, but I don't really recall it. For me, every trip to Israel shows a new side. And currently, just the transformation over the past 5 years, the amazing technological innovation that's coming out of Israel today is truly astounding.
Now you're here in Jerusalem at the moment. Why are you here in Jerusalem?
I was invited by the government to speak at a Christian communicators conference, Christian media conference, and they want me to tell the story of how the movie we released this year, back on May 23, called In Our Hands, The Battle for Jerusalem. And it's the story of the Six-Day War from the point of view of the 55th paratroopers, the men who actually fought the war and then reunited Jerusalem. So that movie was a tremendous success for us in the United States. And we had a premiere in Jerusalem on June 4, and the paratroopers all attended it and loved it. And so that was a real moment. So they've asked me to talk about how that movie came to be and show some excerpts from it.
So these were actually the actual paratroopers that were at that point in time?
Oh, yes. It was done docudrama style, where we had actors portray them from 50 years ago, and then we had interviews with them commenting on the scenes that had just been shown in the movie. So,
now, looking a little bit towards the politics, Donald Trump is wanting to sever relationships with the Iran nuclear deal. Israel's happy about this. Is this the right thing to do?
Boy, there's two sides to that. Is it the right thing to do? I think only history is going to tell us that. Going into the Iranian deal, I thought the deal was struck right at the point in time where sanctions were finally working. For me, as an American citizen, I view Iran having nuclear capability and then having ballistic missile capability as a problem for Americans, not just a problem for Israelis. If you live in Israel, you don't want to live under the threat of nuclear annihilation, that a nuclear bomb delivered by a ballistic missile could land in Tel Aviv. That's not an Israel I want to see. But if Iran has the capability, well, in their terminology, America is the great Satan. Israel's the little Satan. So aren't we really the target? Yeah. And I don't think it's in anyone's interest for Iran to have nuclear capability.
Also, as well, he's wanting to sever relations with UNESCO. What do you think of some of the decisions that UNESCO have made just recently, particularly about the Temple Mount?
Well, I'm disturbed about not just UNESCO, but also the UN resolution from right before Christmas Eve, right before Hanukkah Eve, declaring the reunification of Israel, of Jerusalem, to be blatantly illegal, and talking about East Jerusalem as Palestinian territory. UNESCO has done this repeatedly, where they seem to ignore both archaeology and history, and the rights of the Jewish people to their homeland. So why should the United States continue to support that? As a Christian, I would be very worried of the Palestinians gaining control of the Temple Mount, the Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Hezekiah's Tunnel, the Garden of Gethsemane, the Mount of Olives. All of those are within East Jerusalem. Israel, over the last 50 years, has proven that they are good stewards of the holy sites. They allow equal access, Christian, Muslim, Jew, equal access to the holy sites, and have done so faithfully for 50 years. Under Jordanian rule, before 1967, you had to have a special pass. Jews were absolutely prohibited from visiting the Western Wall, their holiest site. I, for one, don't want to see a return to that, and I don't want to see a Jerusalem divided once again.
Now, the book of Genesis talks about, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. There's a lot of hatred coming from the Palestinian Authority. Do you feel that the Palestinians are actually cursing themselves when they hate Israel?
Well, you look at the plight of the Palestinians, and this would go back 70 years. I think they've been intentionally kept in refugee camps. I think they've been intentionally kept in refugee status. And instead of nation building, they have had an ideology, let us drive Israel into the sea. I would submit after 70 years of that, has it really worked for them? And are they better off? And at what point in time are they going to realize perhaps we need to focus in on basic infrastructure and how to create industry, how to create jobs, and especially how to live in peace with Israel? And if they would do that and stop the glorification of martyrdom, the glorification of the shaheed, I think the world would be a better place.
And has God got a plan for Israel today?
Absolutely. God always has a plan for Israel. It's the apple of his eye. You know, just today I was with a group and they were all these laughing children. And I just thought about the prophecy over Jerusalem. Once again, children will laugh in your streets. Yeah. So we've seen it come to pass. I've seen it come to pass in my lifetime where things that were considered absolutely impossible became possible, where Jerusalem was reunified. And it is an absolute fulfillment of words written down 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, and 3,000 years ago. So to say, does God have a plan for Israel? Absolutely.
Now, your ministry has been running for many, many years. You must have seen God do amazing things.
We've seen all kinds of miracles in all kinds of places. CBN's been around now for 58 years, and I'm always astounded at what God is able to do.
Why do you do what you do?
It's a calling. I encourage anyone, if you're looking to get into ministry, make sure it's a calling, because there will be opposition, there will be difficult days. Will there be joy? Yes, but you have to know that you're called and that this is the purpose of your life. If you have that certainty, then everything else will fall into place.
What's your prayer finally for Israel and the Palestinians?
Peace. My prayer continually is for the peace of Jerusalem, a blessing on the Palestinian people. As Christians, we need to recognize Jesus died for them. And if you look back through biblical history, the Palestinians and the Jews are actually brothers. And wouldn't it be wonderful for brothers to dwell together in unity?
Amen. Okay, Gordon, thank you very much.
Thank you.